The surveys were done in selected schools for the students. And the schools also, we will come to the data itself. But a lot of the conversation going on in the media over the years has created tension. And we thought it would be good to anchor some of these conversations on a study on empirical data, rather than just have these sentimental conversations and heated debates in the media without knowing the real facts. So we commissioned this survey. The workshops we did in partnership with our partners, in collaboration with our partners from Baraka Institute. Baraka Institute is an Islamic think tank where Dr. Adam works. So Dr. Adam is coming from Baraka Institute, and he will be giving the response. The workshop that we conducted, we did that based on to conduct training for religious, for school authorities in cross-cultural religious literacy. And we did this for over 200 schools, authorities made up of heads, chaplains, senior house masters, and senior house mistresses from over 150 schools from 12 regions out of the 16 regions of Ghana. So this was kind of what we did with the workshops. And we surveyed some of the school authorities also, about 300. We conducted a survey on them, 300 headmasters, chaplains, and senior house masters, representing 225 schools across all the 16 regions of Ghana. So this is the kind of the study that we did. Cross-cultural religious literacy, we thought, was a very important tool to help school authorities understand the intercultural and the interreligious dynamics and the lack of literacy on religious phenomena of their own religion, let alone the religion of the other. So we did some of these trainings for school heads across the country. And we gathered a lot of information from them. So let me present some of the findings here, and then I'll conclude with some closing observations for us to look at. For the scope of the survey for the students, there were over 6,500 responses from the students from over 50 schools across the country. And they answered a questionnaire that we put together of about 49 questions, various questions that we posed to the students, and they answered them. They responded to the questions. We had 42% of the schools were non-mission schools, which means these are government-owned schools and run schools, public schools, if you like. And then we have 35% being Christian mission schools. And then we have 23% being Islamic mission schools. 35% Christian mission schools, 42% non-mission schools or government schools, and 23% Islamic mission schools. And you can already see the nature that a lot of the complaints are coming mainly from the mission schools, both Islamic and Christian, but mainly from Christian mission schools. That's where a lot of the complaints are coming from. We've also had some very isolated, high-profile complaints coming from non-mission schools, like the Achimota School a few years ago with the Rastafarian student that those of us in Ghana know about. We can come back to that if there's anyone here who wants to know more about it. The students were made up of 63% female, more girls participated in the survey than boys, and 37% were boys. That's also because we did a lot of work in girls' schools. A lot of the complaints too were coming from girls' schools. In terms of the religious spread or representation, 62% of the students who responded are Christians, 37% Muslim, and 1% traditional religion, if you like. Those who identify themselves as traditional religious believers are 1%. So this was the kind of the spread of the gender and the religion of the respondents. Now, there were questions on various areas, and I'm just going to highlight a few of the areas that I think are pertinent for this, for our conversation this afternoon. There were questions on interreligious coexistence. Obviously, this was our main focus point, interreligious coexistence. So we asked the students these questions. Is it a good thing or a bad thing to have students of other religions sharing the same school space with you? 77% of the respondents say it is a good thing. Only 2% said it's bad, which means over 90% said they didn't have any serious problem with sharing. They didn't see anything seriously wrong with sharing space, a school space with people from other religions. Does having students of other religions in the same class or dormitory, hostel, pose problems to you or to your life and studies on campus? 5% said it posed serious problems. 67% said no problem whatsoever, not at all. And 28% said somehow. So again, overwhelming majority don't think that sharing space poses any problem to them. This comes from the students. So we asked them, given the choice, would you prefer a school with only students who share your faith? Or would you prefer a school with students from different faiths? Nearly 80% said they prefer a school with students from different faiths. In other words, given the option to go to just a Methodist school for Methodist students, Presbyterian school for Presbyterians, and Islamic school for Muslim students, the students said they prefer to go to mixed schools. The vast majority, about 80%, said they would prefer to go to mixed schools, which again is a very significant thing to bear in mind, that the students don't want to be put in silos. They don't want to be put in ghettos. They want to interact with other students from different religious backgrounds. So we asked them questions around worship. Is worship service or attendance part of school regulations and compulsory, or is it voluntary? 62% say worship in their school is compulsory. 38% said it's voluntary. Most of the voluntary come from the non-mission schools, the government schools. And the compulsory, a lot of it comes from mission schools. And that is to be understood for just the fact that most of these missions, if not all of them, still, they see it as part of their mission to expose students to their traditions. Does attending other worship service pose a problem to your faith? 67% said no. But 33% said yes. So for us as researchers, 1 in 3 saying yes is a big deal. It's a big deal. This is not a small number to dismiss. Even though the overwhelming majority say no, 33% say yes. How was your experience in attending worship service different from that of, let me see. Yeah, your experience of attending a worship service different from that of your religion in school. Was it a negative experience? Was it a positive experience? What was it like? Negative experiences got all the students, 21% said attending a worship service other than their own was negative. 21% for all the students. For Muslim students, 37% said it was negative. So almost 40% of Muslim students say attending, let's say, a Christian service, their experience was negative. And traditional African religions say 18% said it was negative. Only 12% of Christians said it was negative. And again, we have to understand that the data from here that a lot of the schools are Christian mission schools. That's the majority of the schools. And so a Methodist attending a Presbyterian school, attending a Presbyterian church service wouldn't be a big deal. Even a charismatic Christian, it wouldn't be a big deal. But for a Muslim, that could be a big deal. Maybe a charismatic attending a Roman Catholic mass could pose some challenges. And we also came across some of those things. Sorry. So these are some of the findings, that the negatives. For me, it is telling that 37% of Muslim students who attend Christian service in schools find the experience to be negative. This is something for Christians to take seriously. What is it about these services that the students are finding it to be negative? What is it about the services? So we asked the students about their fears for attending religious services other than their own. Fears in attending a worship service different from your own. And these are just quotes from some of the students. A female Muslim student in a Christian mission school said, people who scream during worship and fall on the ground and shake and roll around. I did not know what was going on, and it was very scary, and no one explained to me. No one explained. So when you have this kind of experiences of students during service falling over and shaking and screaming, this can be scary experience. It has been scary for Muslim students for whom the experience is very new. And in fact, some of them said they were traumatized. Some Muslim students said they were traumatized by the experience. I don't like the feeling when preachers say bad things about my religion. I am made to feel small and I am uncomfortable. I don't want to tell my parents these things. This again, a Muslim female student in a Christian school, which means they attend these worship services and there are preachers who come in and attack their religion in the worship service. And these students don't feel right about it. They feel very bad. They feel uncomfortable. They feel attacked. Maybe I might do things we don't do at my church. That means I have sinned. But no one has explained to me what is going on in this worship, so I don't know. This is a female Christian student in an Islamic school. Again, for a Christian student attending an Islamic worship service, it could be confusing. It could even be scary, as she is saying. She's worried that she might be doing something that is against her tradition. And that is a psychological kind of, it has a psychological impact on the students. And remember, these are children below 18. Religious discriminations. We ask questions around religious discrimination, obviously. Are your religious rights sometimes violated in school? 30% said yes. That's 1 in 3. 30% of all the students said yes. Muslim students, 42% of Muslim students said yes, that their rights are violated in schools, are sometimes violated in schools. 21% of Christian students said yes, and 32% of traditional students, traditional religious students. Again, this is also very telling that Muslim students are almost twice as likely to feel discriminated in the schools as compared to Christian students. And this is something, again, because Muslim students tend to be the minority, the larger minority in some of these schools than Christian students. Christian students in most of these schools are the majority, except Islamic schools. And even in 1 or 2 Islamic schools, Christian students form the majority. Are the religious rights of others violated? In others, we were asking Muslim students in Muslim mission schools and Christian students in Christian mission schools whether, in their view, the religious rights of the other. If you are a Muslim in a Muslim school, do you think that Christians in your Muslim school, their rights are violated? And if you're a Christian in Christian schools, do you think Muslim students' rights are violated? 34% of the students said yes. In other words, Muslim students in Muslim schools see Christian students' rights being violated in Muslim schools. And Christian students in Christian schools see Muslim students' rights being violated in Christian schools. This is the students speaking up for each other. 34% say yes. How are your religious rights violated? This is the question. We go to assemblies or talks, and there is never an imam who will talk to us, only pastors. Why is this? Why do we not have imams? This is not respecting my Muslim faith, a female Muslim student in a public school. That is in a non-mission school. This is a non-mission school. And this Muslim student is saying that when they go for public gatherings and religious services, they only bring pastors there. They don't bring an imam to speak to the students. And she feels that her rights have been violated, and rightly so. When it comes to leadership positions, I, as a Muslim, have to fend for second or third place leadership position, but I will never be first. The school infrastructure favors Christians, a Muslim male in a Christian mission school. One of the things we notice is that in all the mission schools, almost all.
Algumas histórias sobre como isso já aconteceu, principalmente dentro das igrejas, mensagens de pregação.
Emmanuel, can you mute somebody? Somebody's on.
Yes, please.
So, this is a Muslim male in a Christian mission school. That when leadership we found was that in most of these mission schools, leadership positions, if you are in a Presbyterian school, a boys' school, the head boy has to be Presbyterian. If you're in a Methodist school, girls' school, the head girl has to be Methodist. If you're in a Catholic school, the head has to be Catholic. This is how it went. And if you're in a Ahmadiyya school, the head girl or head boy has to be Ahmadi. And the same thing with the other religious sects and denominations. So this Muslim student was complaining. Why is it that I can't vie for the top leadership position because of my faith? They frown on the traditionalists and make it look like a cult. The teachers will even mock us in class. We cannot pour libation or do anything. An ATR female in a Christian mission school. Again, the feeling of being attacked or being demeaned or being looked down upon is very, very strong. And these are children, and yet they can see these things happening and they feel it. How are religious rights of others violated? Every Friday, we the Muslims are allowed to recite Quran in class, and even other times. But the Christians are not allowed to read their Bible. They should be reading their Bibles. Why not? This is a female student speaking up literally for Christian students in an Islamic mission school. Why are Christian students not allowed to read their Bibles when Muslim students are reading their Qurans? It is not appropriate to be inviting pastors to school to come and preach that Muslims must convert or they are going to go to hell. I believe in hell, but why are they demonizing my Muslim friends we need to preach other sermons that are relevant to us. This is a female Christian student who is speaking up for Muslim students. That pastors who come and preachers who come and demonize Muslims and say they are going to go to hell, she thinks is inappropriate. It's demonizing Muslims, and she doesn't like it. A Christian student speaking up for Muslim students. Even if we are a Christian school, I don't understand why my Muslim friends cannot go home for Ramadan like we do for Easter. It is not respectful. Again, a female Christian student in a Christian mission school speaking up. Why is it that when it's Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, why is it that Muslim students cannot be given exit to go home and join their parents? Why should they be denied? And this is a Christian student who is feeling that way for Muslim students in a Christian mission school. So what are the key findings? What are the key findings? These are some of the key findings. 90% of students indicate having friendships with persons of another faith in the same school. 90%. This is significant. Despite all the troubles, these students make friends across the religious divides. They make friends. And these friends can be very significant and important for social cohesion and integration in our societies. 80% of students and school authorities indicate that they know nothing about other faiths. This too was very, very surprising for us. Even though they attend these worship services and they still say they don't know anything about the other faith, which means they are there, but they are not there. Even when you force them to go in there, they are there, but they are not there. They are not paying attention. They are not absorbing much. In fact, they are switched off. 80% of students affirm that it is a good thing to have students of other religions sharing the same school space as them. And the same percentage, 80%, say that they would, if given the choice, prefer a school with students from different faiths over a school with students of the same faith. Again, this is significant, that despite all the troubles, the students still prefer to be together. They don't want to be split up into various sectarian and denominational schools. Students who are members of the religious majority rarely feel that their religious rights are being violated, nor do they experience discrimination. The majority don't feel that discriminated, obviously, because they are in the majority. And many of the majority, many of these in the majority will have the system favoring them. If you're a Muslim in a Muslim mission school, it's going to be set up as an Islamic mission school, so it's going to favor Muslims. The same thing, a Christian in a Christian mission school, or a Presbyterian in a Presbyterian mission school, is going to feel that this is my school and I'm taken care of. And they are the majority most of the time. The primary areas in which students feel that their religious rights are being violated have to do with prayer and worship space. In many of these places, some students don't have designated worship spaces. They have to find space for themselves, and sometimes it's difficult to find a space. In many cases, there are also worship spaces given to the students. But in a few cases, some students are banned. Students from other faiths are banned even from saying their private prayers or using, like we said, using their religious texts or religious, Bible or Quran in the schools. Compulsory worship is particularly problematic in mission schools. Students of the minority faith often experience anxiety and stress, or shock and even trauma. The situation is exacerbated when worship is compulsory, and students of the minority faith cannot pray or do not have access to a worship space. Most of the times, if the students are allowed to say their prayers and have their space for worship, even when they are forced to join other worship services, it helps. But when they are denied space to say their worship, and are forced to join the other worship, it exacerbates their sense of feeling discriminated. So some of the recommendations that we are making is that schools should endeavor to provide designated space on campus for student corporate religious activities. These should not be turned into sacred or holy grounds for the exclusive use of one group. One thing we found is that in some of the schools, some spaces have been given to students to use for their religious services, and the students, sometimes with the support of one or two staff, will turn that space into holy grounds. And they say, don't stop here. Even in dormitories, where students say, this is my prayer, you can't trespass in this. So these are some of the challenges also in the schools that we came across. All religious activities in schools should be subject to approved school timetables and should also be supervised by school management. In most of the places, the students are left to do their own thing. They are left to do their own thing. And this is not helpful because they bring in preachers and speakers from outside, some of who come and they say all kinds of atrocious things, and some of the things they are saying to the students are not helpful for the school and for society as large. So we are saying the religious activities by students should be monitored. Compulsory worship services should be customized to suit the age and diverse religious backgrounds of the students. Honestly and personally, I don't encourage compulsory worship for anybody. You see, because worship is from the free will. The moment you make it compulsory, theologically, I struggle with that. But having said that, the mission schools insist that worship is part of their curriculum, worship service. So we are saying that if that's the case, customize it. Don't force Muslim students to go and sit in a Roman Catholic mass where they are using incense, using say the Holy Communion, that they will not even be invited to participate in. They are doing genuflection, and the students sometimes are confused. Even going into the church and seeing all the icons for some Muslim students can be traumatized. So customize it, make the space more friendly, and make the service more less liturgical and devoid of some of these rituals, that the students will not feel so traumatized. That's what. And for Protestants, these deliverance services that are conducted in schools should be avoided as part of compulsory service. If you want to do it for your Presbyterian students or Methodist students or your Christian students, those who want to come, it should be voluntary, but it should be optional. It shouldn't be compulsory for students, children, to be subjected to those kinds of experiences. We also recommend that the policy of school uniforms should be respected in all schools. In fact, the uniform was less problematic to our surprise. In many of the schools, Muslim girls are allowed to use the veil for worship. When they are going for prayers, they use it for worship, for their prayers. But they are not allowed to use it for classes and for other school activities in many of the schools. In nearly all the Christian mission schools and the non-mission schools, except the Islamic schools, of course, where the veil in some of the schools are part of school uniform. So we are saying that if you're a Christian student and you opt to go to an Islamic school where the veil is part of the uniform, you should be prepared to wear it because it's part of their uniform. If you're a Muslim and you are going to a Christian mission school where the veil is not part of their uniform, you should comply with their school uniform rules also and not insist on wearing your veil in the school. These are some of the recommendations that we have made. We are also recommending that all student leadership positions should be open to all students, irrespective of their religious, denominational, or sectarian affiliation backgrounds. We think that inculcating in students the value of meritocracy is very important. And also making them feel at that early age that they are discriminated because of their religion, their denomination, their religious sect is problematic. It doesn't bode well for our our society as a whole. Concluding observations. What we found also is that there are lots of accommodations of religious activities in both mission and non-mission schools. Despite all the complaints, there is a lot that schools are doing to accommodate these things. The headmistress of a Catholic school in Cape Coast received a beautiful and moving citation from the Muslim community for what they saw as her motherly care of their wards. This was beautiful in one of our workshops. They read a citation to us coming from the Muslim community for this Catholic school headmistress. Because of the way she treated Muslim students in the school, the community appreciated it and gave her an award, a citation for it. Accommodation or non-accommodation in many schools, mission and public, depends sometimes on the personal disposition of the head, chaplain, or staff with strong personality. Sometimes it is the community. So sometimes we find the school policies is non-existent. If the chaplain comes and he wants to be more Presbyterian than the moderator, they come in with their rules. Or if a Roman Catholic school, there's a headmaster or headmistress there who wants to be more Roman Catholic than the Pope, the rules are different. They're more stringent. So sometimes it's not school official policy, it's just the headmistress or headmaster or chaplain. Sometimes it's also just a teacher with a very strong personality. And sometimes the community. We found schools in Christian majority neighborhoods, which are government schools, but the school is run like a Christian mission school. And we have found schools in Muslim-dominated communities, which are government schools, but because of community pressure, it is run almost like an Islamic mission school. So some of these we found. Lack of policy or guidelines at the national or unit level that are uniformly applied is another challenge. There are some policies, but these policies are scattered. They are not very coherent and uniformly applied. So you will find that one Catholic school will be doing something and another Catholic school will be doing something extremely opposite. The same with the Presbyterian school, you find the differences. And Methodist school, the same. And that is why we are recommending a national policy for schools. Another challenge was also that we identified in the study is the general tendency among Ghanaians to turn and monopolize every space, including shared ones such as schools or workspaces, as religious spaces. Ghanaians have the tendency to make every space a religious space. That's the point here. You go to offices, we have to do morning devotion. Whether the staff are all Christians or not, they have to do morning devotion. You go to this, every meeting, we start with a prayer meeting. So we turn every space into religious space. This is what is happening in the schools. So I'm asking the question, is there too much religion then? Do we need to cut down on some? Is there too much religion that we need to cut down on in some of our spaces to protect the spaces because they are shared spaces? The issue is not a Christian versus Muslim one. Christian students from different denominations attending a Christian mission school of another denomination also felt discriminated. For instance, Protestant students attending Roman Catholic school will feel discriminated, that they cannot aspire to be the head boy or head girl. The same thing, Roman Catholics attending Protestant schools. So it's not just a Muslim Christian thing. Within the denomination, there are problems. Within the tradition. A Ahmadiyya student in an Al-Sunnah or a Tijaniya school will feel discriminated and vice versa. You see. Finally, we need to emphasize freedom from religion as an important component of religious freedom. In other words, one religious group should not impose its beliefs and practices on persons from other traditions. Freedom from religion is not talked about. It's like it's a taboo subject, you see. But why should I have my own religion, you have your own religion. Why should I be forced to observe yours simply because I'm in a particular place at a particular time? So there should be that freedom from religion also. And that is important for religious freedom. Otherwise, religious freedom is meaningless. Thank you. I will pause here and Dr. Adam will come with his response and then we can continue. What's the time? Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prof, for the insights from the survey which you've shared with all of us. I'm sure all of us, as we listen, we may have some thoughts or some questions on our minds. Please, you can put your questions in the chat and we'll provide the opportunity for those questions to be responded to. But for now, we would want to invite Dr. Adam Yunus to provide a response. Dr. Adams is a researcher and a lecturer with extensive experience in social development and policy making. He also works in the area of educational development. He works additionally as the head of research at the Baraka Policy Institute, which is the partner institute of TSI. We worked on a number of some aspects of this survey together with Baraka Policy Institute. So he is going to respond to this, not from a point of ignorance, but someone who is also abreast with the issues that came up. Dr. Adams also has a number of publications in different areas of policy making, including issues related to education. So, Dr. Adams, we are happy to have you share some thoughts and feedback in reaction to the data that has been shared. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon to everyone. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, please. At least I can hear you.
Yes.
I presume everyone understands.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Prof. Azumah, for that insightful and very revealing research study. I could observe that there are more things you could have shared with us, but for want of time, because in the beginning I was able to sense a lot of things from the objectives and from the information you started sharing, until along the line I realized because of time you skewed a particular area. So thank you very much, and I hope at another opportunity we can get more of the revelations that this study gave us. I want to pick on few of the findings and the recommendations that you give in the presentation. And the first one I want to address is something that for me is very, very important, that as a nation, we should be concerned, especially when it comes to this conversation about religious freedom in schools. You realize that one of the key findings has to do with students who were asked whether they would want to share, go to a school that has the same religious background as theirs, or they would prefer going to a school that has a different religious background as theirs. And 90% from what we were given by Prof, 90% of the respondents said that they would want to go to a school where their friends will be coming from different religious backgrounds. 90%. That's an overwhelming majority saying that they prefer going to a school that they have their mates will be different, people from different religious backgrounds. And in the beginning, you realize that the similar question was also posed, and then 80% of them also said that they prefer sharing the same space with people from different religious backgrounds. Now, the reason why I think this is very important is because of one of the objectives of our educational system, one of the objectives of what our educational system seek to address or achieve, and that is national harmony. national harmony. Because as a nation, we agree, and we all agree to stay together as a people from different backgrounds. Okay, we live in diversity, but we have to do everything possible to ensure that we achieve a common goal and we live together peacefully as a people, even though we come from different backgrounds. And so one of the things the educational institutions seek to do, particularly in boarding system, because one thing we also have to understand is that a lot of this conversation comes up because of the boarding system. I mean, we wouldn't have a lot of these issues come up if we were running day schools, because after all, in day school, everybody close and go his way. But because of the boarding system, that is what brings about these conversations. And so we also need to ask ourselves as a country, why the boarding system? The boarding system was not just to convey knowledge or academic learning and teaching and learning. No, it had other objectives. And one of those objectives had to do with harmonization. Because we come from different backgrounds as a people, the boarding system seeks to integrate us as a people so that we learn from each other and then we can be able to live outside the school. So the boarding school is like a training ground. And that is why all of us have experiences of remembering our mates, who your best mate was a Christian as a Muslim, and your best friend in school was a Christian as a Muslim. Those things, we all have such stories. That is the beauty of the boarding system. And actually not just coincidental or accidental, it is purposeful. It has a reason. And so we should not miss out on this. And another reason why this is very important is that over the few years this conversation has come up, I'm sure we've all heard of, if you cannot comply, you've heard of the statement like this: if you cannot comply, go to your school. If you cannot comply, I've heard a lot of such arguments, and I get so worried when I hear people speak like that, that if you go to this school and you cannot comply to their religious thing, then go to your own school, establish your own school and go. And for me, that is a very dangerous argument. And you can see that from the research findings. It is something that is not going to help us at all. It's not about going to your own school. And like Prof said, if we want to live in a society where we want to live in our silos and everybody, then we are going to have a bigger problem to deal with. I mean, after we have finished our secondary school life, we have a bigger problem to deal with. And that problem, trust me, we will not be able to contain it. So for me, I'm happy that the students themselves are not even welcoming such thinking, that people should be encouraged to go to their own schools of their own religion. So that is a very important thing that as a nation we need to be looking at. The other important finding revelation from the finding that I feel is something very critical that again we need to look at is the issue particularly about non-mission schools. And I noted it and realized that in the recommendation by Prof, it appeared there. What I have described as personalization as against institutionalization when it comes to religious freedom in school. And so you realize that in some schools, particularly in mission schools, or let's say in mission schools, we understand that there is a particular religious interest to protect. In mission schools, there's a particular religious interest to protect. So this is a Catholic school, this is a Presbyterian school, this is an Ahmadi school, and there are certain religious ethos that they would want to protect and keep, okay? For which reason they will find it difficult for any kind of program that would abrupt this system that has been there for many years before the state came into partnership with these religious bodies. That is understandable, even though it doesn't make it right, like we have seen in the recommendation. It's understandable, but it doesn't make it right. And there is a way we need to go about this so that gradually we can all get to the ideal. But what is a source of concern and worry for all of us to look at is what happens in non-mission schools. Okay. And again, in the study, 42%, if I remember very well from Prof's presentation, were non-mission schools. 42%, that is nearly half of the schools that were surveyed were non-mission schools. And so if the responses we are having, okay, cut across all such schools, then we should be worried, because what has a non-mission school, a non-religious school in quote, got to protect, to entrench religious practices in a non-mission school, in a purely public school? What is that? Where is that religious interest being protected? And which religious interest is that? Because if you go to a public school and it's not a mission school, I ask the question, which religious practice is being protected there. And so that is what brings about what Prof in his recommendation talk about personal dispositions. And for me, this is something that as a nation, we need to quickly address. I mean, there must be a roadmap. And you see, interestingly, that is why in the recent MOU that was signed by the GES with the religious bodies, okay, plus the National Peace Council. You see, those MOU were actually meant for mission schools. The understanding is that such challenges should not even occur at all in public schools. I mean, in pure state schools, or what we call non-mission schools. But interesting from what we have seen in this finding and from what we know already, a lot of these discriminations and these religious infractions occur even in non-mission schools, and sometimes even more seriously in non-mission schools. Okay, and like Prof said, so if a particular headmaster or headmistress take the seat of headship in that school, then that person tried to push his or her religious ideologies on the school, even though it is not a religious, it's not a mission school. For me, as a country, it's something that we need to address immediately because it's not so difficult to address that. And so it is worrying when findings like this, studies like this come out with such practices happening even in non-mission schools. And that is a very important thing that I actually look at because it doesn't help the conversation and it makes the conversation becomes complicated and complex, and where we need to be focused and address the issues, especially sitting down with mission religious bodies to get a middle ground on how we can navigate on these religious freedoms. Then we have other types of schools that should not give us problem at all, also giving same and sometimes even worse scenario than what they are. So this is something that as policymakers and stakeholders, we need to quickly sit down and then also look at. The other thing I want to also address has to do with some of the responses on some of the questions. And I felt that it would have been more even revealed something worse if we had asked questions in a different way, not questions per se, but if you have gone ahead, maybe it is in the research somewhere. Like I said, I realized a lot of things were in the research because of time. For example, the question on whether students find it to be challenging, okay, or negative. What is it? What is the negative thing, or what is the challenge about asking them to participate in religious practices other than theirs? And where we had 67% said they don't have problem with that, and 33% said they have problem with that. And Prof in his explanation actually said what I'm about to say. Okay, but I want to zoom it for us to understand it very well in another perspective. So realize that if we had actually gone ahead to, let's say, go to a one particular school, let's say a Catholic school, okay, and then this question, you ask this question to non-Catholics alone, non-Catholics, that what challenge do you have, or what do you perceive to be something negative, being forced to attend practices that are Catholic or that are not yours? I bet you would have had overwhelming majority of the respondents in that particular space telling you that it is problematic, it is negative. You wouldn't have more than 50% like we had generally telling you that it's okay for them. Okay, and like Prof said, because a lot of these schools, if you put the Christian mission schools plus the public schools together, will form, majority would be Christian schools. And a Christian Methodist would at least find a little accommodating going to another denomination, but within the same Christianity. So the point I'm raising is that if you ask Muslim students whether they have a problem with attending worship that is not theirs, overwhelming majority, trust me, you will get more than 90% of them telling you that it is a problem. And if you ask Christians in an Islamic school whether they have a challenge attending religious service other than theirs, they will tell you that it is problematic. Okay, so it is problematic. And again, I wanted to see a question, this same question, asked on being denied their religious freedom. That question came up when we asked them about the right to worship, okay? But I wanted the same question posed. If, what is the challenge or how negative it is? Is it if you are denied the right to pray, for example, or to observe prayers, or to worship? Direct question. And I'm sure this should exist somewhere. Then you realize that overwhelming majority of the students will tell you that it's problematic. And like Prof said, you see, the issues of rights and freedoms comes in levels. So along the line, we in the state realize that issue is about veiling, for example, dress, religious dress, was less problematic if we check according to the study. And that is certainly so. I am not surprised because there are levels when it comes to religious freedoms and rights. So for example, if I come to a school and I'm a Christian, I've been praying all my life every morning. I wake up within some 3 minutes, I just sit by my bed and observe some 3 minutes prayers. Sunday, I go to worship, or Saturday, I go to worship. And all of a sudden, because I am in a particular space, I am asked not to do that. Trust me, that is more problematic than even asking me to participate in your worship. Okay, so if, for example, a lot of students will find some consonance in allowing them to worship and asking them to join another worship, okay, he finds some at least some consonance in that, than to not allow him or her to pray, okay, and then at the same time, or even if you want, you don't even ask him to participate in any worship, and at the same time deny him the right to worship. That is problematic. Okay, so the issue of denying people their right to worship is more problematic than even asking them to participate in the worship of other religious, practices. Okay, so it's important that we understand the levels of how this infringement comes upon, and which of them are lesser evils and which of them carry weight. So as we try to address them, then we address them one by one or bit by bit, stage by bit. When we achieve this, like Prof said along the line, it's a kind of like a roadmap. We started from somewhere and we need to get to another point at a point in time. Probably to allow other people come in because of time. The last thing I want to mention has to do with the religious dress or the code of dress. Yes, like in the recommendation, I agree in the recommendation, but I think what we need to aspire for as a people is always the best practice. Okay, what we are discussing, we want as a democratic society, as a society that we all agree we have diverse people. Okay, we are aiming at reaching a point where our harmony, our coexistence will be par excellence, and then Ghana will be a beacon of place people will come and study. So we should be aiming at the best practice. What is the best practice when it comes to dress code in schools? We don't have to go outside to look for that best practice. In schools in Ghana here, there are some schools that have demonstrated that religious dress does not affect academic work in any way at all. I'll give you examples in preschools. Look, there are many preschools in Ghana, many, and I'm sure a lot of us have seen it in Ghana, where children who are Muslims, you see them wearing their small scarf, veil on their head, and other people who do not want to wear veil also. You go to set, and these are world-class preschools who are making very good academic performances all over. I can give examples, just I don't want to mention. You go there and you see that people are wearing, in the same uniform, people are wearing veil, others are not wearing veil, and it has never affected any academic performance. Put preschools aside, let's come to the very secondary schools you are dealing with. And here I'll give examples. The Ahmadiyya schools have given us the best practice for us to follow. If you go to all the Ahmadiyya schools, and anybody who knows Ahmadiyya schools know this is the truth. If you go to Kumasi TIA Mass, or the other TIA Mass, no Christian is asked to wear veil, but the veil is part of the uniform. I mean, they have described their uniform that this is the uniform. If you say uniform, this is the uniform. The uniform itself is there. If you are a Muslim and you want to cover, there is a veil for you to wear. If you're a Christian, obviously you don't want to cover, except if you're a Christian, you still want to cover, because you can have a Catholic sister who would want to cover the hair. You are given a chance to cover the hair. So all the Ahmadiyya schools, if you go to the classroom, you will see girls with veils and girls without veils. And I'm asking, can somebody tell me how has this affected the Ahmadiyya school's performance or the religious ethos of the Ahmadiyya mission? It has not affected in any way. And apart from the Ahmadiyya schools, I know of other schools that allow this, where you go there. Public senior high schools in Ghana, apart from the Ahmadiyya schools, who allow Muslim girls to wear veil and Christian girls not to wear veil. Some of them are Islamic schools, where Christian girls are not wearing the veil, even though the veil was originally part of their school uniform because of Islamic school. So I'm asking, we have the best example to follow. Why are we making things complicated when we want to be the best? Okay, so in as much as, yes, because we would want to respect the uniform, but it's a conversation that we need to carry forward. We can achieve what is the best and what is the ideal if only we are prepared for a positive change to occur in all spheres of this discussion without putting some full stop at some places and then comments at other places. So I would end here and then allow others to come in. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adam. And I'm sure many of us have enjoyed your response and feedback. Friends, it's now time for all of us to join in the conversation. I asked earlier if you had any question to put it on the line. I see only one question for now. But maybe I'll put that up, and then afterwards, if anyone else has a question, you can then maybe put your hand up. I see you, then we'll let you ask. The problem in the chat box is asking of the sample size of the study, and also whether it was largely quantitative or qualitative. I think I can give that answer quickly, then maybe Prof will deal more with the substantive issues. Maybe you missed the beginning, Stephen. The Prof mentioned that there were over 6,500 responses, the survey. And I know these are individual responses, but in terms of the number of schools, there were about 100 or 120 or so schools, so across all the regions of Ghana. The question of quantitative or qualitative, I'm not sure how you would want to say, but it's from people on their own experiences. But I will leave it at that for Prof, in case you have any response to that.
No, thanks, Emmanuel. I was going to actually refer that question to you to respond to it. So,
thank you. Yes, please, anyone who would like to ask a question, you can just put your hand up and mute and speak. Yes, I can see 3 hands, so I'll call them in the order that I see here. I see Mama Reverend Patricia, and then Bruce, and then also for Reverend Charles Adonti. So we'll take Reverend Patricia Akpene first, then we'll move in that order, please.
Hello, and good afternoon to you. Prof and Dr. Yunus, thank you so much for the very insightful presentation and also for the response. My question actually goes to Prof. Well, I don't know, I kind of jumped in somewhere along the presentation, so I can't speak for what was said before I joined. But my interest is in a statement that Prof made, that those who are in, like if you are in a school, let's say mission school, or let me take it this way. In mission schools, the idea generally is for students to be formed or to be nurtured according to the tradition of the faith that established the school. So the idea is if I'm in a certain school, I need to learn what it is that established that institution, right? And Prof is arguing that we should not be forced to learn the religion of the religious other. I hope I'm making some sense in here. So I'm just wondering how that aspect of formation, which was the main reason the schools established their own mission schools, would be established. And then somewhere towards its conclusion, he again says that we should also be prepared. If you are a Christian, for instance, and you find yourself in a Muslim, an Islamic institution, you should be prepared also to, how do I say, wear, not to be forced to wear the hijab, but then, oh my God, be yourself, something like that. I'm just seeing some contrast in there. That if one, you are saying that, or the schools are established for them to, how do I put it, to be nurtured, and you find yourself in that school, yet there is an argument that you should not learn or you should not be forced to learn what is going on there or what you are supposed to learn. How does the formation or the nurturing come to pass? Then at the same time, you are also supposed to have your freedom at the end of the day. Is there no contrast in there? I don't know if I have communicated well.
Yeah, I think that's clear. So their point is the religious institution that whose name is on the school, they have their ethos, and included in that is the worship and dressing. So if the the worship should not be for everyone while the dressing. I think that's clear. Prof, please.
Yeah, so Patricia, thank you for your question. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
My response will be that I am not very sure that schools established by missions is to nurture students in their traditions. I think Ghana has a curriculum. Ghana has a curriculum, and our primary purpose of starting a school is to follow the curriculum. So I think it shouldn't be about nurturing students to be good Presbyterians. Presbyterians have values that they want to impart, and that can be done in classrooms, that can be done in various ways. But what we are talking about is worship, religious worship. It's different from a classroom setting. It's one thing to talk about Presbyterian worship in a classroom setting. It's another thing to put me in a church, in a Presbyterian church, every day or every 2 days or every two times in a week to go through a worship service. It's a different thing. So the worship services are different from imparting values. That's the first thing. Your other question was about, what was the other question? I think Emmanuel.
Yes, Prof. She was asking that if the faith groups whose name are on the schools, they consider worship as part of their, and we say that should not be mandatory for everyone. The dressing is also part of the ethos. So how can
So the dress code is we took a slightly different stick. If you ask me my personal view, I don't see anything wrong with a Muslim girl wearing a veil in a school. I have no problem with that in any school. However, the school has made us understand also that there's value in uniform. The uniform makes the students see each other as people of this school. So that when I'm encountering my classmate or my schoolmate, what I'm seeing is a classmate, is a schoolmate, not the religious other. And that was the argument they made, which kind of somewhat convinced me that in terms of the dress code, school uniform gives an identity to the school. And if this is my school, I looked at my high school picture the other day and I was amused. look at my own high school picture where we were all, there was school uniform, and it was amazing. I had even forgotten the color. I won't mention the color to you because it's weird when I look back at it. But that is the school uniform. That is the school uniform that we had. And I recognize most of my classmates because of the school uniform. You see, so I think that there's some value in that kind of school identity, in the school uniform that we were trying to compromise on. But I personally, I don't have any problem allowing students to use their veil in the school. For instance, I was cheering for the Rastafarian guy in a Timothy school case. I didn't see why they should have stopped him. They should have denied him admission, like Dr. Adam was saying. This is, after all, it's a non-mission school. It's a government school. What is your business? What's your business there? You see, but because it's the parents are predominantly Christian parents, they came in and they had a big say, and they said, no, we don't want our children to be in school with this guy. The children themselves from the survey said they don't mind being in school with the guy, as you can tell. But the parents were worried that having children in school with people of other faiths can negatively influence them. But the students are more resilient sometimes than we think.
Yeah, can you hear me? Thank you, Prof. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, yes. Dr. Adams, I don't know if you would also want to take advice.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, okay. So if we can take the question from Bruce. Sorry, I couldn't see the full name. If you can ask your question. Yes, Bruce Dan.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead and ask.
Hello, please can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation done by Prof. But before, what do you call it, I go into the main questions that I want to ask. Regarding his Prof's conclusion on the issue of the uniform, I think that I stand to be corrected, but I do not agree with him because in a sense that the uniforms that are being worn portray a particular religion. So when it comes to probably wearing of hijab and you want to see a group identity, and as such, everybody must wear the hijab, then that's where I have a problem there. But to my main substantive question, in Prof's conclusion, he in one of his recommendations, I think the first recommendation was that churches or denominations should make sure that they refine their worship. And he used the Catholic as an example, the using of incense, the Lord's Supper, and so on and so forth. I may want to ask, does it imply that those things are not of necessity to their worship or are not important to their worship? That's why he's recommending that they take those things out. You see, so I think that to the extent worship in denominations are made probably following some scriptures or certain belief pattern, to ask that some of these things be taken away from their worship, something that they believe in, I think to that extent might not but I also want to say that religious issues are very delicate, and I think that some of these things probably it should be probably allowing various denominations or religious bodies coming down to engage their people. In that sense, we are able, what do you call it, to achieve greater success than probably if we want to make it a public domain issue. People's understanding and acceptance levels may not be what do you say, may not be the same, and that might aggravate other things. For instance, this question about will they want to be in school with other religious groups? This. Hello.
Yes, if you can please
I
wrap
said,
it up.
if I can. Hello.
Please go ahead and conclude so that we
Hello.
can take others and respond to them.
Okay. Yeah. I'm
So if you can wrap up,
for
because
instance,
there are others
question,
also having questions.
whether,
if you can wrap up, yeah.
I'm just wrapping up. Like that question that if others they want to be in schools with other religion. For instance, someone wants to be in the school with another religion, but he will not want to be a best friend to the person. This all measures levels of tolerance. I may want to be with the person, but I will not want him to be very close to me as my colleague religious person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prof, for the sake of time, maybe we should take that of Reverend Charles Adonson, then maybe the two of you can address the together with your closing remarks.
Okay. Just remind me the questions there.
Yes, I'll remind you. Thank you, Mr. Bruce Dam. Reverend Charles, if you can hear me, you can ask your question, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my question has to do with I think, was it the interreligious training that the institute had for heads of schools and chaplains? And considering the findings of this study, I am curious about what competence we want to see in chaplains in our secondary schools, and what is the theological education implication or spiritual care implication, considering the fact that people that we appoint as chaplains in our secondary schools, most of them don't have any, if I should say, theological education, and even those who are pastors who are appointed as chaplains, their training is heavily based on their denomination. So I am hearing that there is a lot of, there is little training in interreligious spiritual care, or offering spiritual care outside of our church spaces. So how do we offer care or spiritual care when we are not in church or we are not in our religious spaces? And what will be the training, the competencies that we want to offer our chaplains? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronald. In fact, this is one of the findings of the survey. There are a lot of the data that we not shared, that many of the chaplains in schools are not trained chaplains just because they are religious. Then they are seen to be religious when they are asked to act as chaplain. But just as you've rightly mentioned, some are trained clerics, but they've not been trained in chaplaincy. And that's one gap. That's one thing that we also see in the data, which maybe one of these seminars will take time to address that aspect as well. But Prof and Dr. Adams, if you can please respond to the others. Prof, the one earlier, I'm not sure if you remember, one was a response to the issue of dressing, the relevance of the dressing. I think that's more of a comment in response to what you said earlier. But the substantive question is on the issue of asking religious groups to, if they have to organize worship service for all students, then they should find a way of adapting it to suit the interreligious and the ecumenical environment.
Yeah.
And so the question is, if you are asking them to put away something that they consider to be a constituent part of their worship and an adulteration of it of a sort, would that also not be a problem? I think substantively that's what there was done.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I think maybe let me clarify this. The point I was making is not that Roman Catholics change their worship or Protestants should change their worship. What I was saying is that I also gave the example of the deliverance services on the Protestant side. So I was very careful to give the two examples. the deliverance service on the one hand, and the Catholic Mass on the other. And the point here is not that Catholics should not observe Catholic Mass in a Catholic school, and that Protestants who want to do deliverance should not do it in their schools. What I'm saying is that these should be optional and should be reserved for members of the fraternity. If I'm a Roman Catholic and I'm attending a Roman Catholic school, I want to have Roman Catholic Mass. I will attend. I will participate. That should be reserved for Roman Catholics. But when you have Muslims, Pentecostals, Presbyterians, Charismatics in the congregation, and you are doing the same thing, and like I said, and we have all been to Roman Catholic churches. This is just an example. This is not just Roman Catholics alone. That they will not even give you the elements. You are not invited to participate in the communion, and yet you are compelled to sit in and to listen and to observe. That's why I'm saying that for the students who are coming from different religious backgrounds, we can organize a Catholic service devoid of the elements, the liturgy, the rituals for them. And then we can reserve the ones with the rituals and the elements for Roman Catholic students. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Catholics should change their worship, the content of their worship. The same thing I'm talking about the Protestants. We can design a service. And remember, these are children. I want to underline that. And by the way, the Ghana Education Act 1961 and 2020 all say that you cannot compel a child under 18 to participate in a religious service other than their own, except for their parents consenting to it. So if you continue compelling the students, especially where there is no parental consent, somebody can take you to court and they can win, because the Ghana Education Act is very clear on that. A child is someone under 18, you can't compel them to participate in a religious service other than their own, without their parents' consent. So the point I'm making there is not like, go and change the content of your service. No. I'm saying keep that, but for Roman Catholics. We went to some schools, for instance, and the argument was that this was a seminary. It was a seminary before it became a senior high school. So what can we do with we cannot change our worship? Yes, we are not saying to change your worship, but the students you are training now are not seminarians. They are senior high school kids. They are not going to become Roman Catholic priests or Presbyterian ministers or Methodist ministers. They are children who are going through high school education for a different purpose. So you don't insist that this is what I was doing when the school was a seminary, so I cannot change. I must continue doing that, even when the students are no longer seminarians. That's the point that we are making here. Maybe Dr. Adam wants to comment on the other one.
Yes. Not on another one. This very same one. I think I was just enjoying Prof what you were saying, because I felt that, in fact, in the normal situation, this should even be the case, or this is even the case in some schools. Because I remember, because you see, how does it feel if you have a service where some of the members of the service don't even understand what you are doing, and they can't be part? Prof, can you imagine asking Christians to go to the mosques to pray whilst Muslims are praying? I mean, it will be, it cannot be. So I think this is easy to understand. And I think that it all has to do with, it's a matter of time, and it's a discourse, and it's a gradual process. But I think what the recommendation we are giving is something that, if we talk to a lot of people, including even the religious leaders themselves, or some of the, they would say, okay, fine, this is, it's attainable, it's understood, but just that it's a process. It's a process that, so we just have to continue with these discussions, and I'm sure gradually we'll all find a way of getting to how this can be done in the schools. Probably people are looking at how can it be done. At what space and time will you do for the observers or the followers of that religion? And at what point in time and space, looking at the limited time and space within the school that you can do. So this is another conversation that we need to have on how we can fine-tune this and how it can be done. Otherwise, the principle and the philosophy behind the recommendation, if you ask me, is apt, and it's something that I think we just need to understand and then see how we can go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to you all. I see interesting issues, but there is still a lot that we may need to chew on subsequently. The problem of religious identity, and how do we manage it in the face of multi-religious participation in those religious.
Exactly.
The issue of form and substance, if we want to maintain a religious identity and then use that as a means of transforming students, how do we go about it? Issues of religious worship, dressing, do we see it as just the form, or does it also add to the substance of religious elements that help in shaping the students? So these are all issues that may need further conversations on, but our time is up. So we want to say a big thank you to all of you for joining today. Let's keep the conversation going. We are still working on the details of the report of this survey, and I'm sure when it is fully out, we'll have opportunity to discuss it more again. Thank you so much, Prof, and thank you, Dr. Adam, and we look forward to seeing all of you again next month. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Emmanuel, I wanted to say that next month we are going to look at a very topical and controversial issue. Sanneh Institute, we love controversial issues. So we are going to look at Israel and all that is going on in the world now, and Christian Zionism and all of that. That's the topic for next month. So please be on the lookout and come with your helmets and your rocks to throw at those who are going to present. Thank you for participating.
For people who would want to appreciate some of the things going on in the Middle East now. So please keep your notifications active as we'll be sending the emails to let you know the details. Thank you. And see you next time.
Bye-bye.